guys, Jessica Henry here. Just wanted to welcome you back again today to my studio. What I'm going to work on today is I'm just going to kind of zoom in on his face and hands and do some of these details that might otherwise be a little uninteresting to watch on Facebook Live because it's a little slower process. So I'm going to do some fast forwarding, and then I'll stop and talk about what I've done, and then continue on. So I'm going to do that today, and then on Friday, Facebook Live, that will be my last Facebook Live video, I'm going to finish this whole painting and wrap it up and talk about everything I did. So that's it for today. All right, thanks. I hope you enjoy this video. All right, I've got us a little bit closer here, and I thought I would show you, before we get going on fast forward, what I have in my little world going on. Sitting in my chair, and I have my palette sitting on my lap here. So for colors, I have all my normal colors that I usually use out. I have titanium white, cadmium yellow pale, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue. This is phthalo green and alizarin crimson. These other colors that I have on here are from a painting I was working on before, and so I won't be using those, but I'm not gonna get rid of them. So there they are. This is what I'll be using, and I will show you when I stop and talk about what I'm doing. Then I'll refer to which ones I'm using for different parts on here. All right, and so I also have my Gamsol in my little container. I have my refined linseed oil right here. And then I just have my collection of brushes and some paper towels. So I'm all set. I'm going to start on his head because when I'm doing things like this, I want to go to the heart of the matter right away. And for me, that's his head, and I have the reference right here. So I'm going to leave this here, and I have another photograph of it over here. I think the color is a little bit better. So I'll be referring to those while I'm painting, and then I'll stop and let you know what I'm doing. Thanks. All right, I'm still working on the face, and there's obviously a lot of color and things that I need to work on, but before I get too far in that, I want to redraw the fingers and figure out where they go. I'm going to scrape off the ridges of this paint like this, just because I don't want to have to be fighting with those when I quickly laid down those strokes before. So I'm going to kind of redraw the fingers on here as I see them, and then I'll be adding the colors there. So that's what I'm working on in this passage right in here. While I'm working on this, I'll tell you real quick what I used for the skin. And of course, as you can see, it's not done, but I was using burnt sienna, yellow ochre, alizarin crimson and yellow ochre as one pile, burnt sienna and yellow ochre as another pile, so it was a little bit warmer and a little bit cooler. Then I used a little white in there to add some of that cooler tones, and then some of these darker, dusky shadows have more ultramarine blue in. All right, so his pinky, I'm noticing, I had it way over here. It's actually way over in this area, closer to, I'm looking at the corner of his eye where his pinky lands, kind of right in there. And then coming down. So this is what I'm going to do here, is I'm just going to redraw his hand, then add the color. So I'm going to go back on time lapse so that this doesn't get really drawn out. All right. Okay, so what I've been doing so far is I have focused on the hat, his hair, his face, neck, and hands, and a little bit of his coat. And I'm going to move down to the hand down there and just kind of try to tie in some of all that stuff. So his skin tones, again, just like what I already told you before, I just used as a base yellow ochre and alizarin crimson, and then into that I added a little white, a little blue. Over on his neck it was sort of a cooler tone, and then of course the same in his hands. Fingertips are always redder, and then I tried not to make them too thingy by making them too divided. It's always my effort to try to unite the fingers as much as possible on a hand, because sometimes then they can start looking really drawn, and you don't want that. All right, so I'm going to work on his arm down here. It's a little bit, well, obviously it looks unfinished. Same with this hand down here. And continue on. And the hat, I did just slight different value change in here to show that there's a skull underneath there. And I kept it darker towards the highlighted area just because it's always darker right before the highlight. And so that was what I was trying to do. I will kind of pull out the highlight right here along his face a little more because I love this halo effect, and I want to try to get some of that going. Okay, so what I'm going to work on next is just refining some of the book and the water. I wanted to get more of this done before next Friday, or this coming up Friday, because this is going to take some time to get some of the water and the ripples just right. But basically what I did with the hand and arm here was the same thing I did up here with the colors. I used exactly the same, and I'm always just looking for ways I can draw a vertical to see that things are lined up the way that they should be from my original photograph. And then I'm also looking for little spots of black or like a negative space. So for example, under his little hand right here, there is kind of a little passage here that I broke down to a really simplistic passage right in here so I could kind of match what those knuckles were doing, because they really do recede this way. So I'm going to pull out a few more little highlights and kind of refine this shape, but then I'm going to pretty much count that part there more or less done. I'll probably soften some of the edges here along the nose and pull out some more of those highlights there. Right? All right, well, thanks for watching my video. That's as far as I'm going to take this for now. I will finish the rest of this painting on Friday when we do the live video. All right, thanks so much for joining. Bye-bye.